Rain drummed on the roofs of the police cars outside the Blue Orchid restaurant in Georgetown. The red and blue lights of the flashing beacons reflected in the puddles, making the scene even more somber. Detective Maya Santos slipped her cape over her shoulders and stepped over the tape of the police fence. Her dark hair was wet, despite the short jog from her car to the crime scene. "Where's the body?" she asked, turning to the patrolman who'd been first to arrive on the call. "In the bushes, about 50 meters from the back entrance of the restaurant," the policeman replied, pointing in the direction. "The waiter went out for a smoke and found her. At first he thought someone had just passed out after the party." Maya nodded and headed toward the indicated spot. She'd been on the Georgetown police force for 15 years and had seen a lot of deaths, but each new case still made her feel heavy inside. The divorce she'd recently gone through had only made her more eager to dive headfirst into her work. A body lay on its side, partially hidden by bushes. A woman in a navy blue dress, her hair neatly coiffed, looked like she was going to a party. Maya crouched next to it, careful not to disturb the footprints around it. The victim's face was serene, save for a small trickle of blood frozen at the corner of her lips. "What have we got?" she asked the medical examiner, who was already on the scene. "Female, approximately 30 to 35 years old," he replied, not taking his eyes off the body. "Bullet wound to the chest, presumably from a medium-caliber handgun. Death occurred about 4 hours ago, give or take an hour." "That coincides with the time of the wedding ceremony at the restaurant, doesn't it?" Maya asked. "Yes, that's about right," the expert nodded. "Another fact, she was killed here, judging by the blood on the ground. It's not a body transfer." Maya scrutinized the crime scene. There were a few smudged shoe prints around the body, but the rain that had been pouring all evening had done its job. Most of the potential evidence had been spoiled. "Does she have an ID?" asked the detective, turning to one of the police officers who had already checked the contents of the victim's small purse. "Yes, a driver's license in the name of Raina Parker, 32 years old," he answered, handing Maya a plastic bag with the documents. And something else was strange. There was a wedding invitation in the pocket of her dress, but it was in the name of Veronica Lang. Looks like she snuck into the wedding under an assumed name. Maya picked up the invitation package. In gold letters on heavy paper it read, "It is our pleasure to invite you to the wedding of Liam Foster and Chloe Taylor." "We need to talk to the bride and groom," Maya said, "and everyone who was at that wedding." The Blue Orchid restaurant was an old mansion that had been converted into a gala. Most of the guests had already left, but some were still inside, shocked by what had happened. In the main hall, where the music and champagne had been flowing, the guests were now sitting confused, waiting to be allowed to leave the scene. Maya glanced around the room. Chloe Taylor, the bride, sat in her wedding dress, huddled against Liam Foster. Her eyes were red from crying and her makeup smudged. "Mr. Foster, Ms. Taylor," Maya approached them, showing her badge. "Detective Maya Santos. I need to ask you a few questions." "Of course," Liam replied, hugging his fiancée. "But we've already told the patrol officers everything. We didn't see anything." "Still, I'd like to hear it from you personally," Maya insisted. "Do you know the victim? A woman named Raina Parker?" Liam visibly tensed at the mention of that name, and Maya didn't miss that detail. "Raina?" he interjected with genuine surprise. "Here. Do you know her?" Maya repeated the question. "Yes," Liam admitted grudgingly. We dated about 2 years ago. Briefly. But I didn't see her here at the wedding. I didn't even know she was in town. What about you, Ms. Taylor?" Maya approached the bride. "Do you know Raina Parker?" "No." Chloe shook her head. "Liam never told me about her. I didn't even know she existed until now." She looked at her fiancé with a slight rebuke, but he avoided her gaze. Maya decided not to push too hard in the first conversation. She asked them to remain available for further questions and approached the other guests. None of those interviewed admitted to seeing a strange woman matching Raina's description at the wedding. Maya couldn't understand. If no one had seen her, how had she ended up murdered near the restaurant? And most importantly, why had she come here with a stranger's invitation? Finished with the initial interview, Maya returned to the place where the body had been found. The forensics team was finishing their work, taking photos and collecting samples. "Anything interesting?" she asked. "Found a shell casing," one of the technicians replied, showing a small evidence bag. "It's a 9 caliber. It would be hard to find anything else because of the rain." Maya nodded. We'd have to rely more on witness testimony than physical evidence. She took one last look around the crime scene as the body was being hauled away and noticed something shiny in the grass. A small silver pendant in the shape of a camera. She summoned a technician who carefully bagged the find. Back at the police station, Maya began creating a board of case notes. In the center space, she placed Reina's photo from her driver's license. A young woman with expressive facial features and a slight smile was looking into the camera. Maya was immersed in reviewing the victim's initial information when there was a knock on her office door. "Detective Santos, there's a visitor for you," the duty officer announced. "Said he had information on the victim." A tall man with tear-stained eyes entered the room. His clothes were wrinkled and his hair was disheveled, as if he had run his hand through it several times in frustration. "My name is Kyle Ellis," he introduced himself, sinking into the chair across from Maya. "I'm a friend of Reina's. Best friend. I read in the news about..." His voice shook. "I can't believe she's gone." Maya handed him a glass of water. "Mr. Ellis, I'm so sorry. Any information you can provide will help us find whoever did this." Kyle took a sip of water, gathering his thoughts. "Reina was going to that wedding. She told me about it yesterday. I tried to talk her out of it, but she was determined." "Why did she want to go?" Maya asked, interested. "Because of Liam," Kyle answered, a hint of anger in his voice. "They dated a couple years ago. It had been serious until he found out that Reina was a transgender woman." Maya made a note in her notebook. That information was changing the picture of what was going on. "And what happened when he found out?" "He freaked out." Kyle clenched his fists at the memory. "Humiliated her, said horrible things, and then he started spreading rumors in their company. Most people just turned their backs on her. Reina had to move to another neighborhood to start over. She was a photographer, and her career suffered because of it." "What about the wedding? Why would she go to one?" "She just happened to hear about it from a mutual friend. She decided she had to tell the bride the truth about Liam, about what he was really like. Reina said she wanted to set things right. She thought the girl deserved to know who she was marrying." Kyle pulled out his phone and showed Maya the latest messages from Reina. "Tomorrow the truth will come out. Can't let him pretend to be something he's not. Can't let him ruin another woman's life." "I should have stopped her," Kyle said, tears welling up in his eyes again. "I should have insisted harder." "It wasn't your fault," Maya said softly. "Do you have any evidence of how Liam felt about Reina? Messages, emails?" "Reina kept everything." Kyle nodded. "On her laptop. She never deleted messages from him, said it was her reminder of how cruel someone you trusted could be." "We'll need to see that laptop," Maya said. "It could be important evidence." "I'll give you the keys to her apartment," Kyle replied. "I have a spare set. We kept an eye on each other's apartments when someone was leaving." He was silent for a moment, realizing that now that wasn't going to happen anymore. All her stuff should be there, including the laptop. Maya wrote down Reina's address and took the keys to her apartment. "One more thing," Kyle added before leaving. Reina had a silver pendant in the shape of a camera. She never parted with it. It was a gift from her father when she first started out as a photographer. "If it's not on her..." "We found it," Maya nodded. "At the crime scene. Then someone ripped it off her," Kyle said confidently. "She would never lose it. Never." When Kyle left, Maya added new information to the board. Now the motive was becoming clearer. Reina had come to the wedding to expose Liam to his fiancée. Maybe she was going to talk about his transphobic behavior. It gave Liam a reason to want her silence. But was that enough to kill? Maya picked up the picture of the pendant and scrutinized it. If Kyle was right, and Raina had never taken it off, then someone must have ripped the pendant off during the struggle. Perhaps at the exact moment Raina realized she was in danger. Near the end of the shift, Maya got the initial autopsy report. Death was caused by a bullet wound to the heart at close range. Gunpowder residue was found on Raina's hands, indicating that she may have been trying to defend herself when she was shot. There were also bruises on her wrist, as if someone had grabbed her tightly and dragged her. Leaving the station late at night, Maya decided that she would go to Raina's apartment first thing in the morning. She needed to find evidence of her connection to Liam and see if he or anyone else had a motive for the murder. It promised to be a complicated case, but she was determined to get to the bottom of it. The rain had finally stopped, and nighttime Georgetown shone with the reflections of streetlights in the puddles. Maya got into her car, casting one last glance at Raina's picture. She made a silent promise to herself, as she did with every victim. Justice would be served. The morning greeted Maya Santos with the familiar bustle of the police station. She was sitting at her desk, reviewing the preliminary forensic results of the Raina Parker case. In her hand, smoked a cup of strong coffee, the third that morning. "Santos, how's the wedding murder investigation going?" Captain Reed asked as he approached her desk. "I'm working on a motive," Maya answered, without looking up from her paperwork. "I've scheduled an interview with the bride and groom in an hour." "Keep me informed," the captain nodded. "The press is all over this story. A wedding, a murder, everything you need to sensationalize it." Maya wrinkled her nose. She hated the media side of her job, preferring to focus on facts rather than publicity. At exactly 10 o'clock, Liam Foster and Chloe Taylor entered the interview room. After the wedding reception and the tragedy that followed, they looked exhausted. Chloe was nervously rubbing her wedding ring on her finger, and Liam seemed annoyed at having to be here. "Thank you for coming," Maya began, turning on the recorder. "I realize this is a difficult time for you. We want to help the investigation," Chloe said, smiling weakly. "It's terrible that someone died on our wedding day." "Mr. Foster," Maya turned to Liam, "you mentioned yesterday that you knew the victim. Could you tell me more about your relationship with Raina Parker?" Liam squirmed in his chair, avoiding the gaze of his newfound spouse. "We dated about 2 years ago," he began reluctantly. "We met at a music festival where Raina was working as a photographer. We dated for a few months, but then we realized we weren't right for each other and broke up by mutual consent." "Amicable?" Maya questioned, looking him straight in the eye. "I have a witness who says otherwise." "What witness?" Liam's voice had a hint of irritation in it. "A friend of Raina's told me that your breakup happened after you found out she was a transgender woman, and your reaction was, shall we say, unfriendly." Chloe turned sharply to her husband, surprise in her eyes. "Liam?" There was a question in her voice. "That's a misrepresentation," Liam said. "Yes, I was surprised when I found out. But that wasn't the reason we broke up." "Then what was?" Maya asked, making notes in her notebook. "Incompatibility of characters, different views on life," he shrugged. "The usual stuff." "When was the last time you saw Raina?" "Over a year ago. I met her by chance at the mall. We didn't even talk." "And yesterday you saw her? At the wedding?" "No," Liam answered firmly. "I had no idea she'd be there." "Interesting," Maya remarked, "because they found an invitation to your wedding in her pocket, but it's in someone else's name." "What?" Chloe looked shocked. "She snuck into our wedding?" "It looks like it," Maya nodded. "The question is, why?" Liam shook his head, his whole look of bewilderment. "I have no idea. We hadn't spoken in over a year." "Ms. Taylor," Maya turned to her fiancé, "did you know about your husband's previous relationship with Raina Parker?" "No," Chloe shook her head. "Liam never told me about her." "There was no reason to tell you," Liam interjected. "It had been a casual relationship that had ended long before I'd met Chloe." Maya noticed the tension between the couple. Obviously, this situation was creating a crack in their relationship. "Where were you both between 18 and 19 o'clock yesterday?" the detective asked. "At our wedding, of course," Chloe replied, surprised. "We were accepting congratulations, chatting with the guests." "All the time together?" "Not exactly." Chloe frowned, remembering. "At some point, Liam went away. For like 20 minutes, maybe." "I went out to get some air," Liam said quickly. "All the people, the noise, the music, I needed 5 minutes of quiet." 20 minutes or 5? Maya clarified, noting the discrepancy in his statement. "I'm not sure," Liam said irritably. "I didn't time it." "Do you have a gun, Mr. Foster?" "No," he shook his head. "I've never been into firearms." "Is there anyone you know who might have access to guns?" "I can't say," he shrugged. "It's not a subject I discuss with my friends." The interrogation went on for almost an hour, but Maya didn't learn anything significant. Liam was adamant that he hadn't seen Raina at the wedding and had no idea how she'd gotten there or who might have killed her. Chloe confirmed his words, though it was noticeable that some revelations about her husband's past had made her doubt his sincerity. When the Fosters left, Maya went to Raina Parker's apartment. It was a small but cozy one-room apartment in the eastern part of the city. There were framed photographs everywhere: landscapes, portraits, street scenes. Raina's talent was obvious even to the unprofessional eye. Maya found a laptop on her desk. Turning it on, she saw that it was password protected. She'd have to hand it over to a hacker. Next to the laptop was a photo album. Flipping through it, the detective noticed several pictures of Raina and Liam. They looked happy, hugging, laughing, posing in front of tourist attractions. It was hard to imagine that these smiling people could later harbor such hatred for each other. Gathering her laptop and some documents, Maya returned to the station. She contacted tech support to crack the password while she immersed herself in researching Liam Foster's past. The owner of a small recording studio, Liam had a reputation as a talented producer who worked with aspiring musicians. His Echo Studios had produced several successful albums in recent years, which had brought Liam some notoriety in music circles. Chloe Taylor, his wife, worked as a corporate lawyer at a prestigious firm. At first glance, a successful couple with bright prospects. Toward evening, Maya got a call from the tech department. "Detective Santos, we've accessed Raina Parker's email and messengers," the technician reported. "And there's something interesting in there." Half an hour later, Maya was already looking at printouts of correspondence between Raina and Liam, dating back 2 years. The messages confirmed Kyle Ellis's version of events. After Liam had learned that Raina was a transgender woman, his attitude toward her had changed dramatically. In the messages, he called her a fraud, used abusive language, and threatened to ruin her life if she didn't disappear from his social circle. The most disturbing was a message sent by Liam a year and a half ago. "If I ever see you around me again or hear you talking about me, you'll wish you'd never been born. I'm not kidding." These messages clearly contradicted Liam's version of a consensual breakup. But were they sufficient motive for murder? And why now, after all this time? Maya called Kyle Ellis to learn more about Raina's recent life. "She's finally found her place," Kyle revealed, as they met at a small cafe near the station. After everything that had happened with Liam, Raina had been in a terrible state, depressed, afraid to go out. She lost a lot of customers because the rumors spread fast. "What rumors?" Maya clarified. "Liam told everyone in their general vicinity that Raina had tricked him by hiding the fact that she was a transgender woman. He made it seem as if she'd intentionally fooled him. Many believed him and turned their backs on her." But what was the reality? Did she hide this fact? "No, of course not," Kyle said indignantly. Raina never hid who she was. But she hadn't felt it necessary to start introductions with that. She'd said she'd told Liam about her past when they'd gotten serious. And instead of understanding, she got hate. What happened next? She had to start from scratch, Kyle sighed. New neighborhood, new clients. It was a tough year. But things got better. She even won a city photography contest a few months ago. Her career was back on track. How did she find out about Liam's wedding? From a mutual acquaintance, Kyle answered. Lucy Chen works at the wedding agency that organized their celebration. She'd accidentally mentioned it in front of Raina. And that's when Raina decided to go there? Not right away. Kyle shook his head. At first she was just shocked. She couldn't believe that Liam was getting married. Then she started talking about how his new bride deserved to know the truth, that she couldn't let him build a relationship on a lie. So she wanted to tell her fiancé about how Liam had treated her. Yes, Kyle nodded. Raina thought she was doing the right thing, that she was saving that girl from future suffering. I tried to talk her out of it, told her it was dangerous, that it was better to let bygones be bygones. But she was stubborn. How did she plan to sneak into the wedding? Lucy had access to the guest list. She'd given Raina an invitation in the name of one of her bridesmaids, who'd given advance notice that she couldn't attend. What was Raina gonna do? Make a scene during the ceremony? No, Kyle answered confidently. She didn't want a public scandal. She said she'd just walk up to Chloe at some quiet moment and tell her story, show her the texts from Liam, the pictures of the bruises. What bruises? Maya was wary. Kyle stopped talking as if he'd said more than he meant to. In the last few weeks of their relationship, Liam had gotten aggressive, he said finally. Raina didn't want to talk about it. But one day I saw bruises on her arms. She admitted that Liam had grabbed her and squeezed her hard when she'd tried to talk to him about their relationship. Did she go to the police? No, Kyle shook his head. She was afraid she wouldn't be taken seriously, afraid that Liam would somehow use her transgender identity against her. There's still a lot of prejudice in our society, unfortunately. Maya nodded understandingly. She had encountered situations many times where victims of domestic violence were afraid to seek help. Do you think Liam could have killed Raina? She asked bluntly. Kyle was silent for a long time, pondering his answer. I don't want to accuse a man without proof, he finally said. But Liam was very concerned about his image, his reputation. And if Raina had revealed his true nature to his fiancée, yeah, I think he was capable of doing anything to keep that from happening. Back at the station, Maya laid out the evidence in front of her. Threatening messages from Liam, information about his past violent behavior, Raina's intention to expose him to his fiancée, all of it created a motive. But the prosecution needed direct evidence that Liam was the one who pulled the trigger. Maya realized that Raina posed a real threat to Liam's reputation. Her mere appearance at the wedding could raise questions, ruin the carefully constructed image of a successful and progressive businessman. And if she showed Chloe the messages that were now on Maya's desk, the marriage could be over before it began. Is that enough to kill a man? For some people, yes. All that remained was to find the evidence and link Liam to the crime. And Maya was determined to do just that. The third day of the investigation began with a review of surveillance footage from the Blue Orchid restaurant. Maya Santos sat in the cramped security room, scrutinizing the black and white images on the screen. We have 8 perimeter cameras, the manager explained, 3 inside and 5 outside. But the quality is not very good, especially in the evening. On the footage from the camera at the service entrance, Maya saw a female figure slip inside about an hour before the ceremony began. From her build and clothing, it could very well have been Raina. On another camera inside the restaurant, Maya saw Raina standing in the corner of the room during the ceremony. The camera then caught Liam walking by and froze for a moment as he noticed Raina. His face changed, a look of surprise and fear. You lied, Maya whispered. You saw her. About 20 minutes after that, the camera at the back exit caught Liam leaving the restaurant at a brisk pace, looking around. A few minutes later, Raina came out the same exit. The parking lot footage showed Liam walking to his car, taking something out of the glove compartment and putting it in his pocket. He then heads toward the bushes where Raina's body was later found. Maya gathered the restaurant staff in the conference room and showed them Raina's picture. "I saw her," said a young waiter. "She said she was a photographer, an assistant to the main photographer." "I saw the groom notice her," the bartender added. They didn't speak, but his face. He was clearly shocked. And then he got all twitchy, nervous. "The groom went out the back exit very agitated," she continued. "And about 5 minutes later, this woman also went that way. 20 minutes later, the groom returned alone, strangely calm. I went out for a smoke," said the elderly waiter. "I saw the groom walk to his car, opened the glove compartment, took something and headed toward the bushes." "You didn't see what he took?" "No, it was small, fit in his pocket." Maya requested a search warrant for Liam Foster's car. By mid-afternoon, the warrant was obtained and the forensics team got to work. Chloe watched from the porch with her arms wrapped around herself. "Detective, take a look," called one of the forensic specialists. "Positive for gunshot residue in the glove compartment and on the steering wheel." "Check everything thoroughly," Maya ordered. "Look for any trace that could link Foster to the murder." While the search continued, Maya invited Chloe to talk. "I've seen the security footage," the detective began. "Your husband spotted Raina at the wedding, even though he claimed otherwise. We also have witnesses who saw him follow her out." Chloe went pale. "Liam might have had reasons not to say he'd seen the woman," she said uncertainly. "Maybe he didn't want to upset me." "What about the gunpowder residue? Does your husband own a gun?" "No," Chloe shook her head. "At least he never told me about it." That night, when Liam came back to the table, Chloe said slowly, "He was different. It was like something had changed in him." At that time, the forensic expert brought a new find, a button from a dress, squeezed between the seat and the console. "It matches the victim's dress in color and material," he explained. Back at the station, Maya received confirmation from the lab that the button was an exact match to the samples from Raina's dress. She reviewed the security footage again, trying to figure out what Liam had done after he'd left the area. When he came back into view, his hand lingered at his jacket pocket for a moment. Then he walked over to the car and leaned inside. Behind the bushes where the body had been found was a small pond that transitioned into a lake. Maya requested a search operation. Maybe Liam had dumped the gun there. While the divers prepared to search, she decided to talk to Liam. Finding him in the recording studio, Maya invited him to talk privately. "Can you explain why you lied to me about not seeing Raina at the wedding?" she asked bluntly. "I wasn't sure it was her," Liam replied. "I saw a woman who looked like her, but I didn't think much of it." "The footage shows you recognizing her and walking out of the restaurant following her." "I saw her and went outside to talk to her," Liam admitted. "Asked her what she was doing at my wedding. She refused to leave, saying she wanted to talk to Chloe. We argued, and I left." "Why didn't you tell me this before? It would have looked suspicious, wouldn't it? X shows up at my wedding, we fight, and then she's found dead." "What did you take from the car?" "Cigarettes," Liam answered quickly. "I smoke sometimes when I'm nervous." "There were traces of gunpowder in your car," Maya said. "And also a button from Raina's dress." "This is a mistake." Liam looked scared. "Maybe she got in the car while we were talking. The button could have come off then." "You just said you were just talking on the street." "Yeah, I don't remember exactly." Liam was starting to get confused. It had all happened so fast. After the conversation, Maya got a message. The divers found a gun in the lake. The gun was sent to forensics to compare it to the bullet they recovered from Raina's body. The evidence against Liam was piling up, but it wasn't enough to charge him. Maya hoped the gun they'd found would provide irrefutable evidence. Early that morning, the ballistics report was already on Maya Santos's desk. The gun found by divers in the lake behind the restaurant was the same caliber as the weapon used to kill Raina. Moreover, the experts confirmed that the bullet recovered from the victim's body had been fired from the same gun. There were partial fingerprints on the handle. Now the technicians were working on identifying them. Maya pressed her fingers to her temples. A headache had haunted her for the past 2 days, the result of sleep deprivation and stress. Her divorce, finalized 6 months ago, had made her even more immersed in her work. Sometimes she stayed at the station late into the night, reviewing case files, running through possible crime scenarios in her head. The phone on her desk rang, interrupting her musings. "Detective Santos," she answered. "Maya, it's Chloe Foster. Yeah, I need to talk to you. It's important." Chloe's voice sounded tense with a hint of fear. Maya agreed to meet her at a small cafe near the police station. When Maya entered the cafe, Chloe was already sitting at a corner table, nervously rubbing her napkin. An untouched cup of coffee stood in front of her. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Chloe began, when Maya sat down across from her. "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I can't keep quiet anymore." "What happened?" Maya asked, looking carefully at her interlocutor. "Liam and I had a big fight last night," Chloe said quietly, as if she was afraid that someone might overhear. "After your visit and the search of the car. I asked him directly if he'd seen Raina at the wedding, if he'd spoken to her. He denied it, got angry, accused me of mistrusting him. And then..." She was silent for a moment, gathering her strength. "And then I found this." Chloe took out her smartphone from her purse and opened the photo. It was in the album with our wedding photos. Someone from the guests had taken a picture and sent it to us. The photo showed Liam and Raina standing in the shade of the trees behind the restaurant. They were clearly arguing. Liam's face was contorted with anger, and Raina was holding her phone in her hand, as if showing him something on the screen. I asked him about it again, and that's when he admitted he'd seen her. He said that she'd come to ruin our wedding, that she'd threatened to tell me some lies about him, Chloe continued. When I asked him what kind of lies, he refused to tell me. He said it was slander, the fabrications of a jealous ex. "Did you believe him?" Maya asked. "Yeah, I don't know." Chloe shook her head. "But it's not only that. Last night, when Liam thought I was asleep, I heard him talking on the phone. He was talking quietly, but I could make out some of the phrases. He said, 'They found the gun, but my fingerprints shouldn't be on it. I was wearing gloves.'" Maya tensed. This was an important moment. "Are you sure you heard it right?" "Yes," Chloe nodded. "One more thing. This morning, when he was going to work, I noticed that he took a big gym bag out of the garage, said he was going to the gym after the studio, but he didn't bring his workout stuff. Do you think he's going to run?" "I don't know." Chloe looked confused. "But he's never taken that bag to work before. And yesterday, after our fight, he was checking flights to some islands. I saw the browser history." Maya realized she had to act fast. If Liam was really planning to go into hiding, there could be little time left. She called the station and requested an immediate warrant for Liam Foster's arrest on suspicion of Raina Parker's murder. She then asked for a patrol car to be sent to the recording studio where Liam was supposed to be at the time. "Mrs. Foster, you'd better come with me to the station," Maya said. "If your husband is really guilty and finds out that you've been talking to the police, it could be dangerous for you." Chloe nodded. She looked both frightened and determined, as if she had made a hard decision and was finally relieved. At the station, Maya sat Chloe in the restroom and asked the officer to bring her coffee. She herself went to the captain with new evidence. 20 minutes later, a message arrived. The patrolman had arrived at the studio, but Liam wasn't there. According to the staff, he'd canceled all of his appointments for the day, claiming he wasn't feeling well. "He's on the run," Maya said. "We should put out a bolo and check airports, train stations, all exits from the city." The captain nodded and gave the appropriate orders. At that moment, there was a knock at the office. A lab technician came in with the results of the fingerprint study. "There's a match, detective," he said, holding out a folder. Partial prints on the handle of the gun belonged to Liam Foster. It was the last piece of evidence the prosecution needed. Now all that was left was to find a suspect. Maya returned to Chloe and showed her the forensic results. "I'm sorry," she said, "but the evidence suggests that your husband killed Raina Parker." Chloe covered her face with her hands. "I can't believe it," she whispered. "How could I have married a murderer? How could I not have noticed?" "It's not your fault," Maya said softly. People are good at hiding their true selves. Chloe raised her head, tears in her eyes. Do you think he killed her because she wanted to tell me the truth? About what? About how he treated her when he found out she was a transgender woman, Maya replied. Raina had evidence of his aggressive behavior, his threats. If you had found out on the day of the wedding, I wouldn't have married him, Chloe finished. Never. That's when an officer ran into the room. Detective Santos. Uniforms found Foster's car in the parking lot of a mall on the west end of town. Maya immediately rushed to the scene along with a SWAT team. Liam's black sports car was parked in the far corner of the parking lot. A cab was stopped nearby, and the patrolman detained a man trying to get into it with a large sports bag. It was Liam. When Maya pulled up, he was already sitting in the back of the patrol car in handcuffs. Upon seeing the detective, Liam turned pale. Liam Foster, you are under arrest on suspicion of the murder of Raina Parker, Maya announced formally, even though it was already a formality. I want a lawyer, was all he said. At the station, Maya conducted a formal interrogation in the presence of Liam's attorney. Foster refused to talk, citing the Fifth Amendment. But when he was presented with all the evidence he had collected, surveillance footage, witness statements, gunpowder residue in the car, a button from Rena's dress, the gun found with his prints on it, Chloe's testimony, his confidence began to melt. My client is willing to testify in exchange for a reduced charge, the lawyer finally said. He'll plead to manslaughter. The prosecutor will consider this proposal, Maya replied, although she knew that it was unlikely that the prosecutor's office would agree. There was more than enough evidence of premeditated murder. Liam began to speak. His version was pretty much the same as what Maya had already figured out. He'd seen Raina at the wedding and was afraid she'd tell Chloe about his past behavior. He followed her out and tried to convince her to leave. When Raina refused and showed him the saved messages with his threats that she was going to show Chloe, he panicked. I kept the gun in the car for self-defense, Liam said. I never intended to use it, but at that moment I just snapped. I don't remember pulling it out, pointing it at her. All I remember is the sound of the shot and her surprised face. Did you plan this in advance? Maya asked. When you saw her, did you decide to kill her right away? No. Liam shook his head. I thought I could convince her to leave. I offered her money, but she didn't want money. She wanted to ruin my life, my reputation, my wedding. Because you tried to ruin her life 2 years ago? Maya clarified. Liam didn't answer, but his silence was more eloquent than words. What did you do after the shooting? The detective continued. I panicked, Liam admitted. I made sure no one saw, threw the gun in the lake and went back to the wedding. I tried to act normal, but I kept thinking someone would notice my state of mind. Why didn't you tell the truth when we started investigating? Maya asked. You could have confessed to manslaughter while under the influence. I was scared, Liam answered simply. I thought I could get away with it, that there wouldn't be enough evidence. After the interrogation, Maya drew up all the necessary paperwork and handed the case over to the prosecutor's office. Liam Foster was officially charged with first-degree murder. In the evening, finished with the paperwork, Maya went into the room where Chloe was still in. She was to give a formal statement, but now she just sat there, staring at one point. How are you? Maya asked, sitting down next to her. I don't know, Chloe answered honestly. Everything seems unreal. 3 days ago, I married a man whom I thought I loved and knew. And today I find out that he's a murderer who hid his true identity from me. People wear masks, Maya said. Sometimes very convincing ones. Do you know what the strangest thing is? Chloe smiled weakly. I didn't even know Raina existed before she died. And now I feel a connection to her. She was trying to warn me, to protect me from someone who had already hurt her once. Maya nodded. She often found herself intertwined with the fates of victims and those left behind in the wake of tragedy. What am I supposed to do now? Chloe asked. How do I go on living? Day by day, Maya answered. It will be hard at first. Then it will get easier. Gradually, you will build a new life. Without prejudice and lies, Chloe added. If Liam would just tell me the truth about his past. If he admitted that he'd acted wrongly with Raina but realized it and changed, I could understand. I could forgive. But murder. Some people will do anything to preserve the image they've created of themselves, Maya said. Even if it means killing someone who knows the truth. After talking to Chloe, Maya went to the cemetery where Raina was buried. The ceremony was modest. Only a few friends were present, including Kyle Ellis. Maya put a small bouquet of wildflowers on the grave. It was her personal ritual to say goodbye to the victims whose cases she'd solved. Justice has been done, she said quietly, looking at the fresh mound of earth. He will answer for what he did. That evening, back at home, Maya opened a bottle of wine and sat by the window, looking out at the lights of Georgetown at night. She thought about Liam and Rain, about the chain of events that had led to the tragedy, about the fear of the truth that proved stronger than humanity, about the prejudice that could poison the soul, turn an ordinary man into a murderer. Maya knew that tomorrow there would be a new case, a new victim, a new perpetrator. The cycle would continue. But today, at least one story got closure. One truth came out, despite her attempts to hide it forever. Maya's phone vibrated with a message from the captain. Raina Parker's case is officially closed. Liam Foster had been charged with first-degree murder, with a trial scheduled for next month. Life went on, and with it the endless struggle between lies and truth, between darkness and light.